So our Propel speaker and keynote speaker tonight is Chris White, the executive partner of Equus Law Group. And I wanted to come out and say a few nice things about him because I know he won't say it about himself. Everything he just said about Provia and how they are behind the scenes and propelling people applies to this gentleman as well. When I came to him with a pretty bold vision of what I wanted to do in Eastern Ohio, I'll be honest, I had a tough legal career before I joined Equus Law Group. I just hadn't found the fit. I hadn't found someone who really believed in me. And as you can tell by him giving me a mic just after 11 months of knowing me, he trusts me a lot, and it has really allowed me to blossom as an attorney and also as a business person. And he truly knows how to propel people, all of us who come in contact with him. So this is Chris, and he's our last speaker today. Thank you all.
We should put this in context. James, you can bring the house lights down. Austin came to me last September and he says, I'm moving home and I'm either opening my own office or I'm going to work for you and I'd like to work for you. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So that's the whole mentality we brought to this. James, go ahead and go to the first slide here. Nope, not that one. There you go, giant rock. Ryan Holiday was an author. He popularized a parable a couple years ago in his book on Stoicism. And the parable was about a king who was incredibly frustrated with his community. His city, people were complaining. They weren't doing what needed to be done. Nobody was actively moving anything forward. So the king went outside the city and he put a big boulder in the middle of the road, the main thoroughfare, in and out of the city, and then he went and hid in the woods. First persons to come through were the wealthy merchants. And they came through and they're just pointing at this rock, and they can't believe this infrastructure issue that's has, and why isn't somebody doing something about this? And what is going on? And they complained and complained, and eventually just went around it and headed on their way. The next set of folks that came up to the city actually came from the outside. A bunch of courtiers, a bunch of people who wanted to have the king's favor, wanted to meet with the king. And they came up upon this and, oh, this is horrible. And instead of complaining, they were blaming. Where's the guard? Where's the people to take care of this? Why isn't something happening with this boulder? Why is this here? There's somebody who's not doing their job. And then they went around the boulder too and went into the city. Third person came up upon it was a farmer with a wagon full of vegetables. Farmer comes up to the city, sees the boulder, hitches up his wagon for a second, and he goes over and he starts leaning into the boulder is not a lean and move boulder, but he tries to lean into this boulder, and he tries to move it out of the way. And after trying, he just wasn't getting anywhere. No, nothing. This rock was not rolling, not budging, not rocking, nothing. And he steps back, and the king's looking on from the woods. And the king's like, yeah, he's probably just going to give up like the rest of them. Farmer thinks for a few minutes and marches off into a different part of the woods. Comes back a few minutes later with a long stick and another rock. And he takes the stick and he takes the rock and he uses the stick as a lever and he just gets way back up on it and picks it up and moves it a little bit and picks it up and moves it a little bit and picks it up and repositions until the boulder's off the side of the road. And as he's cleaning up his stuff and to put it away, the farmer notices that underneath the boulder, there's a little purse of gold and a note from the king. The king comes running out of the woods, not because the farmer moved the boulder, but because the farmer thought it was a problem he could solve. The farmer treated that obstacle like it was what he could solve. And the note from the king said, the obstacle often is the way. It is the way to where you're wanting to go. It's the way to what you want. And so my talk today is about one obstacle that if we're a leader and we have a team of people that we're probably not taking full advantage of the greatest tool we have, which is our team. So let me switch gears here for a second and talk about isolation. Being a leader is isolating. Even if you have a great team, even if you have a great company culture, being a leader is isolating. Why? Because you're the point at which hard decisions are made. You've maybe signed your name's on the paycheck. You're the one who decides to hire and fire. You're the one who has to make those decisions. And whether you have a couple people who have chosen to work with you that their families are dependent upon your business's success, or you have 3,600 people that their families are dependent upon your success, it's all pressure that creates an isolating effect for leaders. It moves them into a place where they feel alone. And there are two things that can happen on a spectrum. There are two things at either end of the spectrum that can happen. One, the mentality is only I am going to be able to move this thing forward. This is all on me. I got to make this happen. I'm the only one that can. That isolation starts to creep in and make that very narrow feeling that you're the only person that can get this done. On the flip side of that spectrum, there's another problem. You start to look at everybody else like they don't have your best interests in mind. They're just here for a paycheck. And there starts to become a toxic divide between leaders and their employees. And it becomes they're the problem. They're the obstacle. My employees are the problem. Why? Because from a point of isolation, when you're by yourself, everything else feels very distant and removed because you just feel alone. Every obstacle becomes something only you are doing. I'm the only one working super hard at this. I'm the only one doing this. Or I've got to do this. I've got to make this work. I have to do this. And that isolation starts to collapse you from taking advantage of the greatest tool you have in your organization, or even with third parties like coaches, the people around you. You start looking like the farmer leaning up against the rock, just pushing. And you're not going to push these obstacles by yourself. You're not going to get them out of there by yourself. Your people are not the problem. They are the solution to every problem your corporation, your business, your entity, your nonprofit will face. I didn't come up with that. In fact, 3 years ago, I was having coffee with Kevin West. And Kevin, just as he does, dropped a piece of gold in my lap, and I went, oh, I'm taking that. And so for 3 years, that little piece of gold has been something I've been holding in myself to remind myself. I work with lawyers. No offense, Chad. Lawyers are incredibly difficult to work with as an employer. One, they're incredibly intelligent people. They had to be. Two, they're incredibly intelligent in a very limited domain of knowledge, and everywhere else in their life, they are no better than anybody else. You're not going to ask that lawyer to change your tires. You're not going to ask that lawyer to come clean your gutters out. You're not going to ask that lawyer to do anything else other than help you solve a legal problem. They're incredibly intelligent people in a very limited domain of knowledge. That three is entirely built upon being insecure. Lawyers are taught through a Socratic method. The Socratic method means this. Give me your answer. That's not good enough. Give me your answer. That's not good enough. Well, that's a better answer, but still not good enough. Do you know the law bar exam they put us through is not which question is right. It's which question is most right. That means there's multiple right answers, but you have to pick the one that's the most right. The entire profession is made up of incredibly intelligent people in a very limited domain who are incredibly insecure because they will never have the right enough answer. And I decided I was going to run a law firm. These people, I mean, come on. I find myself in the situation where I've got a dozen attorneys working for me and 8 offices across the state, and they're every day making decisions that I'm the one who has to carry the malpractice insurance on. I mean, these people, come on. Surely they're the problem that I run into. If I ever have a problem when I'm running a firm, and of course I never do, but if they have to be the problem. And that mentality creeps in so easily. It becomes so easy to look at them and go, you went through law school. Why don't you know this? And forget, they're just like everybody else and everything that's not the law. My daughter had her first playpen, and I will promise you this, those things are from hell. Have you ever tried to set up a playpen? You read the instructions, everything. They do not unfold in a logical way. I tried and fought and fought. At one point in time, I got the bar to come in place, and it popped up and kicked me in the chin while I was doing it. I stood back from it, and I said, I went to law school, and you will not beat me. It did. Not great, but it did. And I forget. It's okay for me not to know that. It's okay for me not to know those things. And when we're leaders and when we're leading a team, or even like Kevin just said over here a few minutes ago, when we're trying to lead up, it becomes really hard not to look at the other person like they're the problem. It becomes really hard not to make an us versus them. And that becomes the obstacle. The real obstacle is, how do you accomplish this goal this year? The real obstacle is, how do you make this process more easy for your customers? The real question is how do I go find the right kind of people to satisfy my business? The real obstacles, the real stones in the road, they're out there. But the more isolated we get, whether from a truly good place or not, the more the obstacles become about each other. The more the obstacles become about our team. That team is actually the solution to every obstacle outside that you're facing. Here's a couple pointers for you when dealing with this. 1, do you have people on your team that if you gave them a problem and they stepped back and you stepped back, you could trust them to solve it? Think about that for just a second. Do you have somebody on your team, and maybe it's a coach, maybe it's somebody you've hired as a consultant, maybe it's somebody inside your team. Do you have somebody that you have confidence that if you said, here it is, here's the problem, I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to give you some advice, I'm going to give you some guidance, but I'm going to go over there because I've got to go solve something else right now. Take care of it. And then you turn your back with confidence. Do you have somebody like that? Do you have somebody on your team who's like that? I have been blessed through abundance of just raw luck over the years, not because I'm a good leader, but simply just raw luck to work with people who more than not have that kind of mindset. Not everybody, but I have my group of people that I can walk away from that issue and I can go address what I need to address and they'll take care of it. Do you have somebody like that? Do you know for sure, if you say, I don't think I do you know for sure that you don't? Because have you created an opportunity for them to? Because if we're doing it all by ourselves, and I'm the only one who can do it, and I've got all of the obstacles and all the issues hidden underneath my jacket, and I'm carrying it around underneath here, then they're never even had an opportunity to show up and show you what they can do. You need to give them a chance. You need to set the obstacles. And nobody ever is lucky enough just to have one obstacle you face in your business. It always feels like it's a dozen. but you need to let them know. And you need to start modeling the ability to allow them to try. Who in here has ever failed trying to solve a problem? Who in here did it by yourself so nobody else saw you fail solving that problem until you finally got there? Now, how many people hate watching somebody else try to do something for the first time? We are so graceful to ourselves when we are doing this, and I'm trying this, and oh, well, okay. Nope. We will go through a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen iterations of trying to solve this problem. And when we get there, we'll be like, yeah, I did it. And with our team, when we're like, hey, solve this problem, it's like, no, stop it. What are you doing? I am not, as a father, a very good early childhood educator. I recognize this very well. When I was a teacher, I taught high schoolers. I do not have the ability to teach people who do not already have some level of training and understanding. I have a huge admiration for our early childhood educators who otherwise take these little formed people who don't know how to do stuff and teach them the basics of how to do it. That is a skill set. I am not that guy. Watching my daughter try to do something, it was everything I could do to just not vibrate down into, no, let me do it. Because I realize I don't have that kind of patience. But I have a ton of grace when I'm learning. I have a ton of grace from my own mistakes. Are you the kind of leader that has enough grace to allow somebody else to figure it out? To watch them fail? To watch and create a safe enough space for them to fail to solve that problem? Are you? Because if you're not, it's still all up to you. All the obstacles are up to you to solve. If the obstacles are too much for us, they're not going to be easily solved by somebody else, because it's not that you're dumb, that you can't figure this out. It's just hard. And we need time, energy, and effort to figure it out. I think Brian said it this morning very well. Surrounding yourself with amazing people. Not being the smartest guy in the room, but understanding that the group think is where it comes from. You are depriving yourself of your greatest asset by not giving your team the ability to tackle these obstacles and to solve as many of the problems that your business faces as they possibly can. You are depriving them, and you're depriving yourself of your greatest tool. Your people aren't the problem. Asterisk, because I'm a lawyer. Footnote. If you got C players, they might be the problem. Let's be honest about that for a second. If you have C players, not A players, not B players, but C players, people who, when they're presented that obstacle, go, I can't believe somebody let this happen. Why isn't somebody doing something about this? Why? And that's all they do. They might be the problem. So that's my footnote to this whole thing. You may have some people that are the problem. Because when they're given the opportunity, they complain, they blame, and they walk away. But I am shocked at how few people like that I've ever met. Especially in this community, which, to our credit, we derive our self-worth by how hard we work. I mean, that's the reality. Maybe it's not the healthiest part of our community, but it is the reality of our community. We derive a lot of self-worth from a lot of hard work and efforts that we put into things. But I have not met a lot of people that legitimately want to complain, blame, and walk away. But if you have somebody like that, they might be your problem. For everybody else, it might just be time to give them an opportunity and to walk away and let them fail, then let them succeed. I remember when the hardest problem I had to face in the firm was we had grown to the point that we had to move from one phone line to 2 phone lines. Man, was that a hard problem to solve. And I sweated on that one. I really, really sweated on that one because it was like, oh man, Tom and I were getting started. We made it through a year, and it was like, oh, now we got more people calling in, and we need better ways to route them around. And man, we tried this and we tried that, and that was... I do not know how many phone lines can call into the firm right now. Everybody's got a direct line. Everybody's got a fax line. Every firm that I've bought, we bring their line into the firm. There might be 120 phone lines into the firm right now. It's gross. But it's not a big problem anymore because there's already solutions in place to fix that. And plus, I have an Erica. Erica solves all those problems for me because she sees the obstacle. She goes and grabs her tools and she moves it. And then I look at her and I go, that's awesome. I don't want to know how to do that. We all will have problems, and they're not about the scale of those problems. They're about the ability to solve them. And we can't do it on our own. We've got to have a team. And like I said, that could be your actual employees, could be consultants, it could be coaches, it could be contractors. You've got to build an environment that it is safe for them to invest and fail on their way to solving those problems for you. Because that is the way forward. That obstacle is the very way. It's the very opportunity for your business to become what it needs to become next. And it's a hard lesson to learn, especially when you're stuck in a place of isolation. And maybe you're not as patient. Maybe you're more patient than I am as a person. Those rocks, Jim didn't say it this morning, but another piece of gold that I stole from somebody and carried with me is I remember talking to Jim Smucker over the course of when COVID was happening. First pandemic I've ever been through. I don't know, maybe you've been through more than I have, but first pandemic I'd ever been through. Didn't know everything there was to know about it because remember, I'm just a lawyer. I'm only really smart in one little space. Business is not that. Law is. So I had to go around and talk to a bunch of people. And Jim said this, don't waste a good catastrophe. Don't waste the obstacle. This is the opportunity. This is the place for you people to shine. This is the place to find your way forward, to propel yourselves towards the next. I truly appreciate you guys spending the day with us. This is the highlight of my year doing GAPCON, working with amazing speakers, from Brian to Jim to Megan. Goodness gracious, Megan blew me out of the water. She's now going to become my go-to speaker for everything I have to do in my businesses. To the team, to the economic development team, to Jordan, to our coaches, to Austin, to Irene and Nat, to everybody who is here, and for you just to take time out of your day and come spend it with us. Truly enjoy having you around. I'm going to turn it back over to Austin to close us out, but thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Chris.